All right, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about a middleweight fight that I certainly hope gets made and I think has a very good chance to be made, and that is Chris Eubank Jr. versus Jermall Charlo. And Chris Eubank has some pretty disrespectful or dismissive words to say about Jermall Charlo. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So we have for the 160-pound WBC championship, not the franchise championship, because you know that can't be competed for. They decided to put Canelo Alvarez up on a pedestal. So aside from the pedestal championship that Canelo Alvarez is sitting up there, sitting on, you know, the one where, you know, the WBC determines that you are too important to boxing to have you fight your mandatories or for us to tell you who to fight. Canelo, you so important that you can do whatever you want and you can keep our belt forever and ever. Aside from that WBC champion, there's a WBC champion that actually has to fight people at middleweight and actually has to defend his belt against mandatories. That is Jermall Charlo. And one of the people that Jermall Charlo is thinking about fighting, or people that are calling out Jermall Charlo, is Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. is obviously the son of Chris Eubank, right? The former champion out of the UK, highly regarded guy out of the UK. And Chris Eubank is his son, who's a very good fighter, got to the finals of the World Boxing Super Series at 168 pounds before he lost to George Groves. He was also at 160 pounds. He's fought Billy Joe Saunders. He lost to Billy Joe Saunders. Recently, he ended the career of James DeGale. I think that he's a very solid fighter, and he is definitely a threat to Jermall Charlo. Now, Chris Eubank obviously thinks that he is a risk to Jermall Charlo because he says that, hey, he's not very impressed and he's going to beat him, undo him, get him out of there, right? Now, why would Chris Eubank say such a thing? What would lead Chris Eubank to say that he is not impressed with Jermall Charlo? I suspect it's the same thing that is said in comment sections in the videos that I do about Jermall Charlo. And it is essentially this, that he was unimpressive in his win against Brandon Adams, who was a journeyman that he should have knocked out. People believe that he was unimpressive against Matt Korobov. And some people think that he lost the fight with Matt Korobov, bullpucky. Okay, but some people believe that he lost a fight with Matt Korobov, and they say, looking at his resume, who has he beaten? Right? Who is he beaten at 160 pounds? Who is he beaten at 154 pounds? You know, he has the J-Rock knockout on his resume, but other than that, you know, who has he fought? Blah blah blah. Now, I could say about Chris Eubank, who has he fought? I just said the big names that he fought: George Groves. He fought a big name in Billy Joe Saunders, and he fought a big name guy in James DeGale. 2 out of the 3 he lost, and the one that he beat was a guy that was long over the hill, well past his sell-by date in James DeGale. James DeGale, on a side note, though, was one of my favorite UK fighters, actually one of my favorite 168-pound fighter. But man, the dude would not fight. He was highly skilled, but just fought in a style, it seemed. James DeGale just fought in a style that he wanted it to be all action and all, you know, fancy. And as a result, dude took some L's that he'd have no business taking. But, you know, that's my sad story on James DeGale. I wouldn't have minded seeing James DeGale at 160 against Jermall Charlo. But I think that James DeGale, when James DeGale was his best, is one of the best fighters out, you know, one of the best fighters in those weight classes. But when Chris Eubank got to him, he was already dead in the water. Now, should Chris Eubank be impressed by Jermall Charlo? I think he should be impressed by Jermall Charlo, because if he's not impressed by Jermall Charlo, Jermall Charlo might absolutely knock him out. Because even if you look at the Matt Korobov fight, like I look at Matt Korobov fight differently than other people look at it. And I was ringside. This is one of the few fights recently that I've actually been able to go to and be ringside for. And I think people misunderstand that Brandon Adams fight too. The Matt Korobov fight to me showed me something about Jermall Charlo that I think is a credit to Jermall Charlo, in that he is patient. He's patient and he can adjust. He came in that fight with Matt Korobov. Matt Korobov is a tricky, counterpunching southpaw. And he took that fight with Matt Korobov as a late replacement. So I can't remember who it was that pulled out of the fight with Jermall Charlo where it wound up being that he had to fight Matt Korobov. But Matt Korobov is not somebody that you want to take on as a replacement in short notice. He is an excellent fighter. And the southpaw stance and the fact that he's a counterpuncher, man, he was coming over. It started off where he just took away Jermall Charlo's best weapon, which is his jab. Right, he throw the jab on a southpaw matchup is something you can just pat down, and it prevented him really from letting it go. But those straight, also he not only when he threw the jab, and was able to parry the jab, he would come with a straight left hand right after it. So that took a while for Jermall Charlo to make an adjustment. Eventually, Jermall Charlo made an adjustment to it and eliminated that from the equation. And once he eliminated that move from that particular strategy from the equation, he went on and won every round and did it convincingly, in my opinion, against Matt Korobov, and walked off with the fight. But that was an example of somebody that was actually able to take away Jermall Charlo's best weapon, which was his jab. Jermall Charlo make an adjustment and still pull out and win the fight. And that, against a high level opponent. Because Matt Korobov is, like I said, he's not, you might not have heard him before, but he's a legitimate top 160-pound fighter. Still, I think, well, he did get injured in a fight, which messed up and made something be I think it was a no contest or whatever, but I'm looking forward to more out of Matt Korobov. The fight with Brandon Adams was just, I mean, he was out there to survive. And he was a very tricky fighter. He knew how to, once he got hurt, to put a lot of volume punches together and push Jermall Charlo back and make it look like, he was, that he was really engaging and, throwing some shots and taking it to Jermall Charlo. But in actuality, what had happened was before he came forward, he had just got hit with a nasty jab, either a nasty straight right hand, or he got hit with an uppercut. And trust me, sweat was flying off that dude far enough to hit back 4 or 5 rows into the audience. But the way that he was very savvy in the way that he played it off. So a lot of people in television, watching on TV, who couldn't see exactly how hard the punches that Jermall Charlo was landing, and kind of being of the mindset that they didn't want Jermall Charlo to be too impressive, use that as a reason to say, hey, this guy isn't all that. And of course, why would they say that? So that guys like Canelo Alvarez do not have to fight Jermall Charlo. Right now, some people have legitimate criticisms of it, obviously, but many people were playing, Captain Save a Canelo and trying to continually just downgrade this Jermall Charlo's ability. Now, as far as what would happen with Chris Eubank and Jermall Charlo, Chris Eubank, I think, is just about as tailor-made for Jermall Charlo as you can get. Fights with his hands down by his side. He's an orthodox fighter that fights with his hands by his side, down by his side, come forward fighter that's Achilles heel is a jab and a straight right hand. How can you be more tailor-made for Jermall Charlo? Chris Eubank had problems with George Groves. But George Groves, to George Groves' credit, George Groves has a very nice jab, but had significant problems with George Groves and had significant problems with Billy Joe Saunders off the jab and the straight right hand. In the case of Billy Joe Saunders, I think Billy Joe Saunders is a southpaw. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. However, if you match up Jermall Charlo in that fashion with a guy like that, that jab straight right hand is going to be the death of the dude, followed by an uppercut that is ugly as it can get. I see Chris Eubank getting stopped in an exciting fight somewhere around the ninth of the 10th round. And I don't see it going much further than that. But while the fight is actually going on, I think that it'll be an entertaining fight without a doubt. But that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.